Breaking news coming in this afternoon. Eskom responds to the call for power plant cost escalation probe. Eskom asks for documentary evidence to prove corruption in Medupi and Kusile power projects. Mzwanele Manyi has filed a complaint with the public protector alleging lack of oversight by Treasury, resulting in over 100 billion rand loss to Eskom. Now, Eskom says parastatal bound by anti-corruption laws to probe any allegation of wrongdoing. Eskom adds that allegations of corruption have been made in the past, but no proof of corruption has been forwarded. Now, joining us in studio to discuss this further is ANN7's assignment editor, Mr. Buntu Williams. Good afternoon to you, Buntu. How are you doing this afternoon? First and foremost, what do we know about this story? Do we have any background information?
Well, what we know, a little over a week ago, Mzwanele Manyi of the decolonization of the economy foundation went to the public protector to lay a complaint against the cost escalation that has plagued the power plant construction program at Medupi and Kusile. And in that complaint, he made allegations, for instance, that the cost, when the tender was first put out in 2007, the cost escalated from a considered 100 billion to something in the region of 200 billion. So this is what has never been accounted for. And this dates back to 2007. In that time, the cost escalation has gone as far as another 83 billion. And the fear is that it might go as high as 113 to 115 billion. But over and above that, it questions the role of oversight that Treasury should have played. For instance, he alleges that there wasn't an escape clause in the event of a delay in any way or form. You know, the country could go to war. For instance, and then it's got no way of backing out of the deal not to pay those suppliers and participants in the entire program because it is at war. So there was no exit clause to allow us as a country to draw back and not have to be forced to pay for the construction or for the delays. So these are some of his allegations that were made on the day. And of course, you might want to ask me whether the public protector will probe. The public protector, how they work is that when a complaint is laid, they then spend a few days. They got teams that will look into it, into the legal aspects and how prosecutable, a case can be made. And then they will maybe that will take 6 days to a week. And then they will have a case. They will then inform the complainant of where things stand before they then move on.
Buntu, has anyone come forward and sort of taken responsibility for these costs? Are fingers being pointed? Who seems to be the one that's going to be taking responsibility here?
It's not in the nature of people in my country to come forward in these instances. You will understand. But, there are a few people he's put on his crosshairs. First of all is Treasury, as it stands today with Minister Pravin Gordhan. And then it goes back to 2007, that he's never looked back at this. And that is what he's talking about, that this role of oversight has just never been consistent from 2007 to now, even though the build program remains with us. The change of government doesn't necessarily stop an ongoing project, a national project of this importance. And then, of course, that would be Minister Trevor Manuel, who was minister back then. And if I'm correct, he did mention the name of Marie Ramos, who is CEO of Barclays Africa, which owns ABSA, and who I think is married to Trevor Manuel right now. So he's looking at quite a broad section of interest that could have been part of this oversight process that saw 100 billion rand tender escalate to 200 billion and incurring cost escalations that could top 113, 115 billion. And that is at the very nub of the matter.
But let's chat a little bit about Eskom in itself. I mean, there's been a few controversies surrounding it. Earlier last week, we saw the board members answering a number of questions. When it comes to public perception, how is Eskom doing?
You know, we might want to think better of Eskom, you know, considering it's been so many months without load shedding, without negative
That's
publicity.
one positive, yes.
And Brian Molefe, you know, is himself an upstanding guy coming from the PIC, you know, and having been to Treasury before, you know, so he's well regarded, and he comes from Transnet. He's always done well. So he's a very good face for Eskom, and he's considered ethically you know, upstanding guy. And I mean, you would have seen when people were speculating about who could possibly replace Gordon, you know, and one of those people was Brian, because the markets wouldn't quite react badly towards him. So the general investor perception and public perception towards Eskom should be much better in most places in the country. I mean, they managed to collect 40 billion or something like that out of Soweto, 39 million, I think, 39 million rands out of Soweto who have not been paying. And they are putting smart meters, and they are clamping down on criminals, Izinyoka, and people who are destroying infrastructure, you know, for criminal, on criminal purposes and so on. So I should think that overall they are, our impressions of them are improving. Yes.
Just lastly, Buntu, and in wrapping up, where do we see this going? How do we see this unfolding? Will the public protector be getting involved, and what are the expectations around this?
It's very difficult to say.
Of course.
Like I say, what they would do is, it's been a week now, a little more than a week, they should by now have an idea where this case will go, whether there is a case to be made in the first place, and whether the people being mentioned in the case should indeed be probed, and whether they carry any culpability. And then, over and above that, you know, where we go with this is very difficult to say, because, you know, there are so many probes lying before the public protector.
Exactly.
And people have obsessions with families, for example, and they have cases that the public protector, I doubt, will finish before she leaves office in October, mid-October. It's the same with, you know, other cases involving corruption that have been laid by other parties and so on. And there are other communities that have laid things there. But importantly is the issue of, can you prioritize something like this so that it does not play into what's going on right now, where we have all these allegations of factions existing, state capture existing, which I believe will be debated at some stage today in a motion introduced by the DA's David Maynard. So, you know, we should probe this in a way and move faster so that it does not play or feed or become a distraction, you know, in what's going on now in the country. And as you know, every day we see it, there's another allegations about, you know, state capture. And people are talking about state capture, which they don't quite define. People talk about tenderpreneurs when they're talking about business. And this is confusing things and creating perception, misperceptions, I suppose, of how black people, for instance, do business. It's one of the things that have been highlighted, you know, in this new discourse and the vocabulary that defines our what comes out of our minds. And these are the sort of issues that hopefully the public protector can move fast enough and resolutely to deal with this matter about whether we'll take it, whether we will not take it, and settle the thing so that we do not distract or add fuel to the fire that is consuming us and that is becoming a focus in the entire saga of this year that we know is the economic, investment downgrade that we could be facing come November when Fitch and S&P come back and say, guys, your political situation is pretty worrisome. So the sooner, the better.
Definitely. Well, Buntu, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure you and the team will be on the story and get us further updates a little bit later. NN7 assignment editor there, Mr. Buntu Williams, just chatting to us and keeping us up to date. We're going to give you the latest updates there as soon as